Thank you. Good morning, great souls. So good to be with you. Thank you for the music and the readings, and Kamala Devi, thank you for that whispers. That was, it's always amazing to me. I'll hear whispers and feel, and I think it's true, like I don't remember hearing that one before. And just the beauty of expansiveness, what I heard and felt is that's a master's prayer. You know, I just could feel like, well, that's what a master would pray, to not only receive something, but for it to be for everyone, and then this quality of omnipresence. So our topic today of karma, and I just also felt in the way Atma Jyoti read, which I appreciate, soul bondage or, release. And karma it's an interesting one, is what I'll say, because in terms of the teachings of yoga, and then I'll talk a little bit about my own experience with it, it's bondage when it's identified, when I identify with it. So if karma is connected, they call it the post of ego awareness. If I'm relating to patterns that I have within myself, to experiences that happen in my life, from a deeply personal perspective, that defines me in some way. I feel bad about maybe a pattern that I have, or good about a pattern that I have. Swami talks about practicing humility and waking up one day and feeling proud of it and catching himself going, well, that's not quite right. I don't want to be proud of my humility. So, and then in terms of circumstances, Master Yogananda said they're all neutral. And again, I will just say for myself, boy, that's not obvious. But this practice of being able to relate to everything from a perspective in the teachings of yoga of what is it offering me? Because that's the essence of the teaching, is that karma is a blessing. And it doesn't, sometimes it feels like that, other times it doesn't, but it's always coming with an opportunity to grow, to expand and be free. Always. It's always coming in that way. So training the consciousness to relate to my own patterns and that which is happening in my life from the perspective of inquiry. And as it says in the reading, karma can't be understood. It says with reason alone, but it's the intricacies, right? It has to be understood from a superconscious level that only a master can do. But we can get glimpses of meaning, I will say, but what I want to balance that with the most important thing that I have seen and felt and experienced in the teachings is what to do, not why. Right, and it's not an easy thing to not ask that question. Why is this happening? In Ananda, we have a way of asking, why is this happening? Instead of, why is this happening? Which is more the conscious mind level, to say, why is it happening? Why is it happening? And in that, what I find is an attitude of inquiry that's receptive. Teach me whatever this moment is offering me. Help me to see it in that way and not get bound by my own understanding of it, which is limited even when it feels expansive. I'm not yet at that master level. I'm aware of that. So even if I feel like I perceive it, the important thing is how to work with it and move through it and grow, expand. Right, Dharma, the difference between Dharma and karma, one of the differences is that karma is, all that's happened before, so the patterns, it's simply, as the reading says, it is energy has gone out, thought has gone out, intentions have gone out, and now they're coming back, and they come back in different ways. Not, again, always obvious, and many times not from this particular lifetime, which can make it all the more confusing. So to be able to simply relate to it from a way of Receptivity. Receptivity. So I want to share, yesterday was a really beautiful wedding that we had here for those who were present, and Shanti gave, Shanti and Gloria, beautiful guidance of the ceremony. This is for Esther and Paul, and it's just a blessing. Always these weddings, these Ananda weddings in particular, are a great blessing, I find, and I hear others say the same, Perhaps this is why a story is coming to mind, but very much what the Ananda wedding through Swamiji highlights is what it looks like to choose God first. And then in partnership, how to hold the partnership as a vehicle for helping each individual grow in their relationship with God. And always that's the touchstone. And so starting out that way, having the whole ceremony be strongly rooted in that, and then reminding the couple, as Shanti did, so then as you go, remember this, because it's not easy. It's not easy. And then David and Letty and I were having a lovely conversation afterward, and I asked Letty's permission to share something she shared in a class recently that touched me so deeply about their journey and Ananda and the power and the blessing of Ananda for their relationship. And I'll paraphrase what I heard Letty say is that, it really saved their relationship, because without these teachings, it would be natural to impose on the relationship something it was never meant to deliver. God. I mean, even the most wonderful relationship cannot deliver that. It can't give it. So when something is lacking, our own awakening, and this is what I was hearing and what Letty was sharing, rather than look to the partner and say, be more. Be more, or look to the relationship, be more, right? Which is so easy to do. I think of a story that Asha told of a carpet in Chela Bhavan. And she said, I got every ounce of what could possibly be in that carpet of appreciation out of it. And I looked at it and thought, I guess that's it. So in relationships, to be able to recognize the relationship isn't failing. It just can only give so much. However wonderful it is, that's it. It has a limit. The material realm has a limit. And if I come into it understanding that, and then look at my life and situations and friendships and partnerships as a practice of reaching higher to that which can deliver the promise of freedom. So again, back to this beautiful ceremony. So I just found myself reflecting, I always do, James and I always do, on our relationship, our partnership. I think it's a wonderful, as David was saying yesterday, we get to take our own vows again, right? And I really feel that. Whereas as partners, you get to just go deeper with, remember this, remember this. So I just found myself reflecting on this journey of karma in terms of dating, right? And okay, so that's interesting, because non-attachment, right? To not be attached. And I've been reading joyfully Anaya and David Gamel's new book about these experiences, their experiences with Swamiji. And that just came right on the heels of Anandi's book, right, about her experience. So we're just blessed with all these stories and of training. Anandi's book is Trained in Divine Love. And so there was one thing Anaya was sharing about some quotes of Swamiji, just, a series of different lessons and teachings. And one was that devotees sometimes will mistake non-attachment and non-desire as non-energy. And it just made me smile, because it's, the thing is if I'm unattached or I'm not attached, it doesn't mean don't be involved. It doesn't mean don't be engaged. It doesn't mean don't bring energy. So here's how I'll line that up with dating. So I have this kind of two segments of dating. I will say this. I really wanted a partner in my life. I mean, really wanted a partner in my life. And God heard about it all the time. Yeah. Right. And it sure seemed to be moving slow in that department. Like, come on. Like, it was not happening. And so I have these really distinguishing points of all in my 20s, but the early part of my 20s, boy, was I attached to, I can say that, like, and gosh, there's a very funny movie called He's Just Not That Into You. It's a very, very funny movie. And part of what the movie describes is, like, for women in particular, can create all these stories of interpreting things when it's like, he's just not that into you, right? And girls will be telling each other, oh, it means this, and really, it's very humorous. So, so what I would find is girlfriends that would do that, right? Like, you're dating, and like just the one date would be so important, and what does it mean? And for heaven's sakes, no wonder, as we'd say in yoga, like the vrittis were very activated. There's no calm chitta whatsoever. And that was, so one moment was really interesting. So anyways, that was my experience. And then, as I've talked about here, I had a profound spiritual awakening that really happened in my sobriety, because daily you pray and meditate, and you're seeking deeply for God's guidance. And I began to receive guidance that was not what my ego was anticipating at all, and primarily towards renunciation. I mean, I just really got that call, which was not my plan. And so I was navigating that, trying to figure that out. Well, eventually I go and I surrender beautifully to be a lay missionary and really go all the way in to discern this, and got to a point where I was like, boy, I couldn't give up that partnership. And I could just feel God going, it's fine. Right? I'll bless you, right? So I really did, and really you shouldn't take that vow if you're not ready. And I wasn't. So it asks you, like I checked every box, and the bottom one is, you should never feel a sense of sacrifice. I was like, oh, I can't quite say that, right? I really couldn't say that. I felt like, well, what happens if I'm a nun? Because that was how I could imagine it. And then I meet the one. Uh-oh. Right? So it's like, I just wasn't done. So I'm like, okay, so I wasn't, and everyone was so lovely and supportive, like, yeah, you're not ready. It's fine. So then dating after that was actually a lot easier, because the one thing I had worked out was God is my partner, and number one. And so, I don't know how it's going to work with partnership, but that has to be accounted for. And this practice at that time, which is, as I was saying in Ananda, we talk about, why is this happening? Well, I didn't have that phrase. And I didn't have the teachings of yoga to recognize the flow of my consciousness, to be able to discern, when am I in subconscious patterns, karma, when's that happening, likes and dislikes. Conscious, solving, fixing, figuring out. I didn't have these teachings. Super conscious, elevated, expanded, much closer to God, right? I didn't have that, but what I did have was an inner dialogue with God. And like, okay, you're in charge, I get that. So I'm, every moment, every experience, I'm like, okay, what's that mean, God? I'd be trying to discern it. So anyway, I'm dating now again. Yeah. It's, what can I say? It was an adventure, that's what I'll say. And so, friends would be super excited. And anyway, I had this experience where somebody I met before a movie, and, he definitely was drawn to me, and I was practicing being non-attached. I was practicing being like, okay, maybe this, who knows what this is going to be, we'll see. So he asked me out, and we chatted for a bit. Okay, fine. And, he was handsome. I mean, he ticked a lot of boxes. So I could have easily been like animated about it. But I was interested, but I was practicing, right? Practicing. Like, okay, you don't know how this is going to go, so try and be relaxed. And all my friends were over the moon. Whoa, this is wonderful. I'm like, all right, yeah. So anyway, Friday night comes, the date comes, I get ready, I'm dressed. No show. Boy, that never happened. I was like, is he not coming, right? So I call and leave a message, and I thought, oh my gosh, wow. I mean, he couldn't have expressed more interest prior to this. And I thought, well, what is going on? Prior to the days of texting, I'm sure I would have been texting, but I called, and anyways, then I'm sitting there Friday night by myself. And in my mind, I'm thinking, everyone at work knows. Everyone's so excited about this. There's no sneaking out of it. I can't not talk about it. And I just said, okay, God. At a certain point, I put my pajamas on and went to bed, right? Now, the next day, as it turns out, my friend had asked me previously, she was taking through JFK University, they had a master's program in consciousness. And so she, and it happened to be, the center was right near where I lived. And she said, could you please go to my class? I told my professor, bring my recorder and tape the lecture. I can't be there. And I said, sure, okay, yeah. So that was the next morning. That's what I had to do, get up and go, right? So I go, and I was reminded of it in Swami's commentary about the reading, because he talks about the point of karma is to get off the wheel. Get off the wheel of karma. That's the most important thing. Why is it, what's it mean, all that. It has some interest and sometimes value, but mostly get off it, right? So just recognize that, find a way to relate more deeply to the truth of who you are, which is the divine soul, which is much, much bigger and more infinite than anything else. And in that, relating to your own self and to the world around you, from that perspective is freedom. So I had done my really pretty good practice the night before, and I was like, okay, God, I don't know why this happened, but I did remember I could feel my consciousness. I didn't have those words, but I could feel my consciousness ready to go down and feel horrible about it. And I thought, nope. And I remember kind of standing like this. I go, no, this has nothing to do with me. I don't know what's going on. I don't know why he's doing this. It seems bizarre. I have no answer. It has nothing to do with me. So I'm like, nope, that's my decision. I'm going to bed. So the next morning I woke up, same thing. Nope, this has nothing to do with me. So I go off to the class and I play and it's all about Buddhism, and it's really fascinating and wonderful, and they teach us the wheel of karma. And some level of remembering was going on, is all I can say, because the entire lecture I'm like, yep. And the professor's looking at me like, who are you, this young woman, right? I'm in mid-course, and I was like, oh, yeah. Yep, I get it, right? So he goes, okay, my friend, she laughed. She goes, you are something. She's like, I'm struggling in this thing. And you go to one class and you're like, yep, that's it, I get it. And I did. And I felt God saying to me, this has nothing to do with you. And don't be drawn into all this drama, right? Get out of the drama. So so this story, this practice, the reason I think partly it came to mind, because that was a moment where I could feel myself grow spiritually through it. I could feel like, well, I don't know why it happened. He never called me again. It was just wise. Good call. Yeah, I wouldn't follow up on that. Whatever happened, just keep moving. Yeah, we're not a match. And but I could feel. And I went back, and there's a story Swami tells. I've heard him say it at different times. I could choose to be embarrassed about this. I felt it. I could feel I could choose. I'm not. I just remember no, I'm not. And of course my friends, oh my gosh, it's terrible. I go, well, whatever it is. I don't know what it is, but I'm moving on. And I could feel the strength it gave me. I could feel like you're on the right track here. You're on the right track. Don't relate in this way. I'll wrap up with, just in terms of sharing. The reason I'm sharing it is that this idea of how to be, so when Swami talks about, I don't know if I need the reading for this, but, the inaction, the action in, maybe where is our reading, dear? Oh, we probably don't have it right there. So I might reverse the order of it, but the point is this, that, for the yogi to be able to perceive the inaction in action, and the action in inaction, or sorry, I think you know what I'm saying. Did I say it right? Thank you, friends. So To perceive God as the doer. I was reading Swamiji's commentary, and prior to that, I like to sit as deeply as I can and just meditate and listen for what can I perceive in this teaching, and then read the commentary. And this idea that within action, there is the stillness of God. There's inaction, right? God is present in all activity. There is God. Right? And then in action, not doing, there is activity. What is that? And what came to my mind in meditation, what's the most obvious not looking like activity? Meditation. God. The active presence of God. Right? And Swami says things very similar in his commentary. So this practice of working with the teachings in a way that life gives us lots of opportunity. That's what I'd say about karma. There's lots of opportunity to watch the consciousness and just notice, where is it? Subconscious, conscious, superconscious, what does that look like? And then in terms of the chitta, which from Patanjali's teachings, the Yoga Sutras, chitta is, Yogananda Master said, is primordial feeling, and it's centered in the heart. And what we're doing in yoga practice is neutralizing the agitated chitta. So not feeling. We don't get rid of feeling. We don't neutralize feeling. But what we neutralize is feeling that's become agitated. So agitation by relating, and the number one way that happens is if I'm personally relating to my inner experiences or personally relating to life around me. And that's why that example for me, I think, really stood out. It was a moment where, again, I didn't have these teachings, but I could see, don't get involved in it. Don't go there. It's not going to serve you. Who knows why? Just move forward. You just stay on your path. You just keep being who you are. I go back to God. And even in that, I didn't have a lot of conversation with God about it. I was like, all right, well, that's odd. And so we just stay focused here. The part of why I felt it might be helpful just to mention it, it's humorous, and I think personable when we talk about things like that, but also as a way of just looking at how to move through life when the ego does want to be, as Diksha talks about it, as like hypnotized. So like drawn in and like to feel that, there it goes, the energy is going outward. And how to pull it back, still observe it, still notice it, relate to it, but try to lift the consciousness to say, well, God, you tell me. You let me know. I don't know why it's happening, but show me how to be with it. And the more and more that I practice that, what I've seen more and more is the important space between the egoic identification and the soul awakening begins to happen more and more, where, I'm not trying to understand now. Now I'm not trying to understand. What I'm trying to do is live in accordance with your will and only your will. And part of how I do that through these teachings is to say that everything coming is of you. Everything coming is of you, and let me relate to it from this place when I'm when activity is happening, the stillness of God. And when I'm still, when I'm not acting outwardly, the action, the activity, the presence of God. So those two things together. And I want to read a quote from Ananda. So this is Ananda's book, if you haven't seen it yet or read it yet, and it's extraordinary, of what it looks like to be a disciple, eager to learn, eager to grow, eager to awaken. And she has a number of stories that she says herself, where the ego could easily misinterpret them. And one I'll just share is because I read it and thought, wow, Okay, that would be challenging, where she and a group of devotees with Swamiji went to town to do something he'd asked Anandi to be in charge of. And then they're driving back and in conversation about it. And she was talking to Swamiji, and she says, and I thought we were having a meaningful conversation. It seemed like we were. And suddenly he stopped the car at Ayodhya, I can't say it. Ayodhya. Thank you. And he abruptly stopped the car and turned to Ananda and said, would you like to get out? And she said, okay. And then as she's getting out of the car, he turned to the others and said, would you like to come over for tea? Okay, so she's getting out, and he's kicked me out, but taking the rest of the group to tea. And she really strongly, okay, why is this happening? What am I being offered here? What is being given? Why is Swamiji doing this, right? And she talks that part of her journey had been overcoming what she calls the high school mentality. You're in, I'm out. Oh, he likes them better, not me. And that's a moment I think, my goodness, most people, certainly myself, that would not be easy. Okay, sure, I'll get out, have fun at tea. I'm not quite sure why I'm not invited, right? So this quote comes later, and this is Anandi writing to Master. She wrote him beautiful letters on his birthday in particular when she was in seclusion. This is January 5th, 2002, a birthday card for Yogananda. I love that idea, to write a birthday card. And so this section here, she said, I long to see every moment as coming from you. Pain, discomfort, slights, opportunities to be left out. Each is a great blessing, a chance to express joy and God attunement, and to be victorious. Master, I long to remember that you are the guru, the giver, and that my role is to receive gratefully and joyfully, not to tell you how my life should be. I long to be centered in God, to be relaxed in my trust in your wise, omniscient guidance and love, and to see the God in others. Above all, I long to be kind in thoughts to others and to myself. Help me to be a channel for your goodness. That's the way out of karma. Yeah. She was a perfect example.
In India there lived by the banks of a stream a hermit whose prayers chose applause for their theme. He gazed at the flowers and he smiled at the sun. Then he clapped with delight, Lord, he cried, oh, well done. Trees dance to Come with me.